Last time I told you about how all this information on the internet kind of keeps you stuck. Well, this time I'm going to give you the compass I used to get out. Hey, wonderful people, we're back here again talking about thriving after narcissism, right? So what did I use to get out? Well, it's all about the window of tolerance, right? That amount of tolerance you can have in your life for negative things to happen, and you're still okay, right? So let me explain and how that all fits into this. So when you're not okay, when your nervous system is dysregulated, when you're raised by people or married to people that have a, let me move the camera a little bit here. Yeah, I like to be dead center. Oh, let me post my stuff right up here. Okay, that's my qualifications. And when you're around these narcissists, they get a whole different thing into your head, and they are dysregulated, and then you become dysregulated. And then when stuff happens in your life, you spiral. You're triggered by the silliest things. I didn't see the video, but I saw the thumbnail to a video. The guy was going to try pumpkin pie for the first time because he had a phobia against pumpkin pie. It can be the silliest thing. It's all in your head, but you make it real in your body and in your actions. And anybody that's been triggered knows. But there are always these other people who are never triggered. You know these people. They never seem to be triggered by anything, right? Then nothing seems to bother these people. Right? They're unflappable. That type. And we're going to get towards that type. Now, I was that type back when I was a young adult. Anything that happened, they were like, bring it to Frank because he is unflappable. And my mom was a narcissist, and she treated me great when I was a child. She tried to, because she had issues with her dad, who probably had some issues too, because his mom died when he was young. So he had some issues too. So it's like issue upon issue upon issue, generation after generation after generation. Where are we going to stop it? We're going to stop it right here, right now. Anyway, so a hurricane was coming in, because that's what happens on the East Coast. And she was hysterical. No two ways to say it. It's crazy, right? I wasn't. That's the window of tolerance, right? And then spending time with her, especially in her last 10 years of her life, I got those triggers. I got a lot of that dysregulation, and then I was the one who was catastrophizing over getting an unexpected bill. Then I was the one who was triggered because something negative happened. So let's go to something that happened when I was fresh from the narcissist. My mom had been dead for like less than a year. She was a narcissist, totally dysregulated me. So less than a year. So basically I have all the damage still in there. I don't know it though. And then I came here to this apartment, and I forget why it happened, but I didn't pay the bill in the proper amount of time. I think I put it in, and I expected the app to pay it. It's right to, you schedule it, and I remember what happened. Maybe this doesn't happen in all apartment complexes, but the apartment here, right? They give you the rent, and then they give you the other things like also electrical and water is tacked onto the bill, and a couple other fees, right? They love those fees. But that can be later. So I paid the rent. I'm minted, right? I'm good. No, the other fees came in, and I didn't know about it. and I didn't pay them, right? And so I get a threatening letter at the door. It's like one of those legalese letters that if you don't reply to this in 15 days, we're going to start eviction, proceedings. And if you don't reply in 90 days, you will, eviction this and eviction that, and you will be forcibly removed by the sheriff from your premises. You don't tell somebody who's easily triggered that stuff, right? And so what do you think I did, right? I went off the charts, catastrophizing, totally triggered, totally upset, totally bent out of joint because the story was that, oh, now everything's going to go bad. Now everything, and this is the script that I had when sticking around the narcissist too long. Right? Because a narcissist would totally do that. Everything was proof that everything was going to go to hell in a handbasket. Everything. Right? If the mail came a little late one day, oh, this is it. This is the end of the world. Anybody that's been around narcissists knows that this is what they love to do. It validates them as a victim, right? If they can do this, if they can pull this off. So, but that gets into you too. I got a little reflection on my head. That's not my hair. That's a reflection over here. Anyway, so, yeah, that's what I did. I flew off the handle. I was totally re-traumatized. I'm still looking for a letter on the door because the trauma is in here, right? It's not up here, right? Like the guy looking for the pumpkin pie. It has nothing to do with pumpkin pies, right? It has to do with the stuff in your head. So 3 weeks ago, dun, 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 stuff started to happen again. I was on a new lease, right? And I have automatic auto draft, or whatever they call it. But the new lease kicked in, and now that doesn't apply. Not only that, but the apartment complex at the same time got a new property management company to watch the whole complex now. So even that upset the situation too. Their computers were down, their email was off, the Wi-Fi. Anyway, so I saw the letter on the door, and I knew what that meant. And that old stuff came back, right? And those old programs are still in there. They talk to you, I swear. This has to be where people think they're possessed and they're hearing voices. Because I could, the old story was there. Oh, no, this is the rent. You could be evicted. This could be the whole, a whole process of a hell. You could be out on the streets. I have to read this right away. And then it was the fact that I didn't pay the rent. I didn't pay the rent at all because the app didn't trigger on the new lease. Right? And I got upset. I got triggered, but I'm different these days because I've been working on myself. And then I was like, okay, take a minute, breathe. It's usually not as bad as you think it is. And if it is, you'll have to pay these extra fees, like $70 in nuisance fees because it's late. That's just so wrong, but it is what it is. We don't even have to go there. That's a whole other thing. This whole, I haven't really just gone into it yet, but there's a whole thing about fairness and narcissism and all that stuff and survivors of narcissism. But anyway, let's skip over all that, right? And then what did I do? Well, I grabbed my phone and I went into an AI app and I asked it about the situation that was happening. And I think I asked it, I feel triggered by this. What's the best situation for me to do in this triggering moment? And it was like, and it told me everything I already knew, which was great because I knew, take a breath, take a breather. tell yourself it's probably not as bad as you think it is. And even if it is, you'll have to pay $70. You'll throw away $70, and you'll just have to chalk it up to the school of hard knocks and never do it again. Okay? Then I was like, yeah, I guess that is it. You know, all the catastrophizing that the sheriff's going to be beating down the door. Get out! Isn't actually a thing. Right? So, and then it was like at the end, you know, what are you going to do about it? Because you could probably, the best thing to do about it is probably to go down to the office or call up the office immediately and apologize. And it actually gave a little script to best apologize and win over the staff and maybe even get your $70 back. So I did all that. And I think I went down there. I remember going down there, and it was chaos. The computers were offline. They couldn't get into their email all day. The Wi-Fi was out. Because a new team had come in and set up new Wi-Fi passwords, and they set up new internet for them, the new management company. And they were having basically the same problems I was having with my lease, right? Technology didn't like it. So I asked, right, and they said they have to talk to the manager, so whatever that is. And so if that is a thing, I'm just going to have to chalk it up to the school of hard knocks and make sure that never happens again. And because I worked a second job last year, I have extra money in the bank. This is not going to break me. So you can see where I'm fitting in here. But this situation, this kind of situation, and how I responded to it, and I wasn't having fun. I was totally triggered, but I didn't spiral. Yeah, I didn't go crazy. I didn't make it worse. That's the thing with these triggers. These triggers can make, I'm looking at a reflection. Stuff is starting to, right? I got to finish this up. So stuff can get worse. And then because you make it worse because of how you react. Or you can make it less worse, not so bad, by how you react. And that's how I reacted. That's the measure that I am doing well. And after I solved that situation, I paid the rent. It was extra money. Wasted probably, right? But they said they might. So I was like, whatever. Let it be. Then the taxes came in. I had to pay extra taxes, another $1,500 on top of the taxes that I was normally going to pay. I was going to get a refund, actually. And then I had to pay $1,500 extra dollars because I made too much money last year, which is a good problem to have. Shut up. Right? But I didn't. It was the marketplace health insurance. At some point, you need to cut it off when you're making too much money. You say, I'm going to go without insurance for these 2 months or something like that. And I didn't do that. Mea culpa. That's on me, right? So I moved on from that. And then the next week, I was getting threatening emails from the same from the same management company of this apartment complex that my lease was in violation, right? Again, visions of eviction or homelessness, right? But, I was in that space and I was miserable and I was anxious and I had anxiety until I solved it. Again, I went down to the office. They were still having chaos problems down there. And they said, oh, don't worry about those emails. Just send us the information when you get it, and that's fine enough, right? I had to get the cat a rabies shot. I got rabies shots sent it in there. It was not a big deal at all. They didn't care about it. I was all upset. And I went to AI again and said, asked about it, and the AI basically said it's probably not a big problem. You could send them an email to apologize if you want and tell them what you're going to do. And I did that, and they didn't even care about it. They didn't even read it. The guy said, "Oh, I saw your email come in today, but I didn't get a chance to read it. I'm sorry," because he didn't care. I was the one that cared because I was still a little triggered, but I handled it so much better. And this was week in and week out, week after week after week. Bam, bam, bam. These things would have crushed me back in the old days. Absolutely would have crushed me. But now they didn't. I'm getting stronger by reacting properly, by being regulated, by seeking peace and knowing where peace is, how peace feels. Like this moment is peaceful, right? It's safe. When you know that, when your system knows that, it can move on to more dangerous things. That is the measure that I use to know that this stuff is working and how good I'm doing, right? So, I mean, like, I would love to have an income of $1 million a year. Here, let me move this thing out of my eye, right? I would love to have an income of $1 million a year, but I could tell you, I couldn't do that. I don't know if I can now, right? Because imagine that kind of money and what you could lose, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars because you didn't pay the rent on time or whatever. Well, I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But I couldn't do that back in the day when I wanted to win the lottery. I would have been toast, right? I would have needed sedation. But today, I can manage things and manage them well. And because there is always going to be chaos in your life. There's always going to be crazy stuff coming up in your life. The light in your life is always going to shine in your eye at some point. So you have to have that regulation. You got to have your stuff on track. That's all it is. And I use all the techniques I can get to the best of my ability, and I move on. That's how I measure my progress in this game of life. And as a person recovering, thriving back to self after narcissism. And I know you can too. So let's finish it up there, people. This has been great. Watch the rest of my videos if you got any other questions, and I'll see you next week.